Hello, BookShark Bootcamp. It's your community manager, Jana, and today is session 2 of BookShark Bootcamp 2026, setting up your binder. Now, you may think that setting up your binder is kind of not necessary to have a video about, but we want to make sure that all your questions get answered, that there is nothing that you are guessing at as you unpack your BookShark box. And that is why we have this session about setting up your binder, because it may seem rather intuitive on how to set it up. But when you've done it year after year after year, like I have found some things that are really helpful as you're working through. And if you're brand new to the program, some things are completely foreign to you. So that is why we are going to have a set up your binder video. I'm actually going to play a video that we put together that you could find on YouTube that will give you a great overview, like video, so you can actually see a binder being set up. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about that video. So the first thing we're going to watch is a video, and it's going to help us figure out what it looks like in real time setting up a binder. So here we go. Now that your BookShark boxes have arrived, let me show you how to put your instructor's guides in a binder. For this example, I'll be using Level D, History, Language Arts, and Science. The binder is extra wide and could hold a fourth guide, and includes a pocket for timeline figures and extra notes. Each instructor's guide is divided into 4 sections. Section 1, Table of Contents and Introductory Materials. Section 2, the 36-week schedule with notes, activity sheets, and answer keys. Section 3, resources like the book list, scope and sequence, teaching recommendations, and materials for deeper understanding. Section 4, tips to get the most out of your program as well as your proof of purchase. You may do your subjects in any order you want. I'll start with history, then language arts, then science. Place all Section 1 materials in the front of the binder. Then place each week from Section 2 behind its tab, starting with Week 1, History, Language Arts, and Science. Repeat until all 36 weeks are behind their tabs. After that, place Section 3 and 4 resources behind their tabs. Section 4 is the same for all BookShark guides except for the proof of purchase on the back page. Your binder is ready. You can easily find each week's assignments and resources. If you have any questions, email main@bookshark.com. BookShark's advisors are here to help. All right, I hope that was helpful for you guys to be able to see exactly what it looks like when you're putting together your binder. So here is the binder that you were given if you got an all subject package and the required resources for BookShark. Now, what's unique about BookShark's binder is these numbered tabs. The numbered tabs correspond with the weeks that you have in your instructor's guide. So weeks 1 through 36, each has a tab. And as you saw in the video, there's a reason that we have those tabs so that you can break up your instructor's guide by week. And then also in the video, it showed you that you can put them in order of your subjects. If you're just doing one subject with BookShark, then you're just going to have one subject behind that week's tab. If you're doing more than one subject, we always like to have history, language arts, and then science. If you're doing more than one student, you can still keep it together in the same binder. It's definitely big enough to have more than one guide for one student in each subject. Now, for those of you who maybe didn't get the BookShark binder, the big binder, or didn't get the number tabs, you can still order those on our website individually. Just go in and look up the binder and then number tabs. You'll find that on our website. You can order as many as you want or need. If you're a little bit more money savvy, resourceful, don't want to put another order in, you can always get a big binder. I would say maybe a 5-inch binder, big ringed, and then just use some of these clear tabs like this. It's not going to look as fancy, mind you, but it definitely is adequate. So let's walk through in a little bit more detail what is exactly in your instructor's guide and what you're putting in the binder. All right, so first of all, you have your section 1. It is a quick guide, user guide instruction. It's the same in each of our levels in every instructor's guide. It's going to give you like the quick what you need to know right now to work through your instructor's guide immediately. Directly behind that is section 2. Section 2 is the instruction. It's weeks 1 through 36. Each one's going to have a day 1 through 4 on a schedule. And then behind each of those schedules are going to have the instructions for day 1 through 4. Now, if you are using our history, you will not have any activity sheets in history until you get to level I. Caveat, level F has notebooking pages. They are not found in the instructor's guide. They're actually a separate set of notebook pages that come for your student. Those correspond with history. Otherwise, the methodology of our history is a Socratic method. We really want you to read those discussion questions, to interact with your children, to engage in the vocabulary, follow the questions, let them ask more questions, run down rabbit holes. That is what the adventure in learning with BookShark is all about. But those discussion questions are a jumping off point for you and your family. So that is how you get through our history in the lower levels. Once you get to level I, J, and high school, your student will have a separate guide. It will have the questions in there for them to ask. I mentioned last week about our virtual. So if you are going to want something for a little bit more independence, if you're not going to be able to be sitting there reading with your child and discussing every single day, that virtual might be a great option. So make sure that you go on our website, look up BookShark Virtual, and get a demo so that you can try it today and see if it will work. It's an add-on with your curriculum that you have. All right, you will have activity sheets in language arts and science. So in that section 2, you're going to have a schedule, you're going to have your instructions, and then you're going to have activity sheets if you have language arts and science with us. Math is a whole other animal. And we just announced recently a partnership with Nicole the Math Lady. So regardless if you chose Math UC, Saxon, Singapore, or Right Start, you can now opt in to have video lessons from Nicole the Math Lady that correspond with those levels, starting in level 3, I believe, for Saxon, going all the way through. And then they are working on some Right Start. I believe, again, it's going to be a little bit higher because those lower levels don't need a whole lot of video instruction. They're fairly simple, very easy to understand for parents. And then she is working on Math UC, and then Singapore is already done. So keep that in mind. You can find her on our website, Nicole the Math Lady. They will have their own schedules because if you got an all subject package with us and you did pick one of those 4 math programs, you're going to have your own schedule for that particular methodology for math. So we don't have that set up in our binder. You will have to take care of that on your own, but each of them have a schedule of how you're going to work through that curriculum. If you have questions, if you need more help about that with math, reach out. main@bookshark.com. We'll get you talking to one of our customer service reps or one of our advisors. We'll help you out to get that figured out. So for the big binder, we're just talking about history, language arts, and science. Now, on that first section 2, you have a schedule. And if you notice, there's some blank spaces down here in your schedule where days 1 through 4, we've got that 5th day blank for you to be able to either play catch up, for you to put in your activities, your field trips, your co-op, whatever it is that you want to accomplish on day 5, that is blank for a reason. Underneath is also a place for electives, for notes, again, for anything else that you're adding into your homeschool. Some people, some states require meticulous notes on how many days they homeschooled, how many hours they homeschooled. Other states, they have no such requirements. So you need to make sure you check out what is required for your state and then what's required for the program that you are part of. A lot of BookShark customers are using our product through their charter schools, through different parts of their districts, through their schools. So make sure you understand what is required of you, but that is a great place to take notes. I will say this, your future self will thank you for the notes that you take as you work through your weeks. because there may come a time where you have to remember what you did way back in week 2, or if you didn't write down where you guys went that corresponded with that learning, you may totally forget. So, the more detailed notes that you can take for yourself, and when I say detailed, I don't mean like paragraphs and essays. I just mean like date, where you went, maybe something exciting that happened, if it's like a field trip, if it's a co op, if it's something that corresponded with your learning, just so that you have that for your records, if that's something that you may need to prove to somebody or something that you may want to look back later on. Kind of like pictures. I flip through my phone all the time of looking at the fun things that the girls and I did. It also comes up in my memories. So that's a really great way. So those pictures are a digital way of remembering your homeschool years, and that schedule, those blank spaces, are a great way of reminding yourself what you did in which week. So you have your schedule, places to put things. You also have your 5th day, again, depending on how you're using your week or how you're setting up your week, to make sure you write that stuff in. So section 1, quick user guide. Section 2 is your instructor's guide, your schedule, your instructions, and activity sheets depending on the subject, okay? Section 3 is our resource guide. It's your book list, which is going to be important for next week. So if you're opening up those binders and you're going to put them together this week, make sure you pay attention to your book list for each of your subjects, because we are going to use that next week when we figure out how to organize our homeschool area. Also in section 3 is scope and sequence. Your scope and sequence is going to tell you week by week the subject matter in that you guys went over for that week. It gives you an overview of the entire 36 weeks. It's a great way to plan ahead. If you know that there's a certain field trip you want to do, a certain museum that's going to touch on a subject that you know, it's a great way to look at that scope and sequence and get an idea of how to plan your year. We will also be going over how to plan your year in another session, so hang tight with that one. But scope and sequence is really helpful for that. Section 3 also has, again, a place for a field trip templates. We have blank templates in there that you can fill out. You can make as many copies as you want of those so that you kind of have an idea of where you went, what you did. I'm really great with pictures, but that doesn't necessarily mean I remember everything that we did while we were there. So those field trip templates are really helpful to not only help you remember what you guys did on that field trip, but again, if you ever feel like you needed to be like, hey, what did we specifically look at when we went to that museum on that day? It's really helpful. That's in section 3. All right, section 4 is the new user guide. Section 1 was like the quick start. Section 4 is the details. It's like the manual of the how-to BookShark's methodology and your instructor's guide. Some of you would probably never read section 4. And I get it. Like when I put together something that needs assembly with my husband, I'm the one that reads the directions and then I tell him exactly what piece to put where. That's how our relationship works. That's how my brain functions. I want all the information. I will encourage you to at least peruse section 4. It gives you a really good understanding of why we do what we do, why we're scheduling the things the way that we schedule them. So I would say peruse it at this point. I would also say take a sticky note, and as you're putting your binder together in session 2, week 2, that maybe in week 4, week 5, after you get some time under your belt, you understand some of the terminology of homeschooling and BookShark, that you reread it. You get yourself familiar, because you're looking at it now and you're kind of like, I don't know what any of this means or what it's saying. But once you have actually started your homeschool, and then you get a few weeks in and you stop and you reread section 4, it's going to make so much more sense. So section 1, quick user guide, get an idea very quickly of how it's going to just give a great overview. Section 4 is going to go into great detail. It is going to talk about great tips for success with BookShark as well. And that is why we are here. We want you to have great success with BookShark. Now, we had several questions already about mapping. A couple things. Your required resources, you would have gotten a large, foldable, markable map. United States would be on one side and the world would be on the other. Once you get to level I, J, and high school, when the students have their own student guide, that changes. All the maps are going to be in the back in section 4 in their student guide. Prior to that, you might also have a laminated map. Let me pull this out for you guys to see. This laminated map is also going to be in your instructor's guide. Okay. This is referenced quite a bit in our history when you're working through different levels. So you'll have your large markable map, you have your laminated map, and then once you get into those higher levels, later middle school, high school, and on, they have their own maps. More questions about that, absolutely type them out and let us know, because we want to make sure that we get those questions answered for you. But as you're looking through some of these things and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't understand, I don't see that, might be because you actually don't have it. A, if you didn't get required resources, you wouldn't have the large map. Or B, if you have those higher levels, you wouldn't have gotten one anyway. So that's the secret to the maps. We'll talk more about maps and geography as we work through our sessions. Okay, so you have your big binder. This is what we affectionately call as a working binder. As you can see, I took out the cover to my instructor's guide, slipped it in the front. My daughter did high school world history 2 years ago. I like to just have weeks 1 through 30, weeks 1, 2, and 3 right in my working binder. It's a couple of reasons why I like to keep a working binder. A, look at the size. It's so much more manageable. If and when I want to leave the house and still make sure that we get things done, I can easily grab my working binder, put it in a bag, go out, leave for vacation. If something comes up, I can make sure that she is still doing her work wherever we are if we're not in our home. That big binder tends to be a little bulky as well as overwhelming. One of the reasons this BookShark Bootcamp was created is to take the overwhelm out of having to start with BookShark, having the book shock that we talked about last week. So all of these little things are to help you stay organized, to help it feel very manageable for you, and to really give you the confidence that you can do this. So working binder is just 3 to 4 weeks at a time. Once you get through the first couple weeks, then you switch it out with your big binder and you'll put the next 3 to 4 weeks in. I find that not looking at the whole makes me less overwhelmed. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe you're not overwhelmed by all that. You get excited about it. I have a hard time with like reading really thick books. That the whole thing just feels like I'm never going to get it done, which is why I have the working binder. Just a pro tip, use it, don't use it, but that has been super helpful in our homeschool. Now, an optional student binder is going to be the same size binder. You can do this several different ways. Those activity sheets that I talked about that we put behind each week in the big binder, you can keep them there and then pull them out each week for your student. Or I used to pull them out as I put together my binder each year, and I would put the activity sheets in a binder for my students so that they had it all at once and they were responsible for it. I will say, depending on your student, as we all know, those paper holes will tear through, and then you might lose pieces of paper or activity sheets that you need. So you know your student best. I also used a lot of Scotch tape to just like tape the holes and then hope that they stayed. So I would really encourage you just to think about maybe try it one way. If that doesn't work, then try it another way and find out what really works for you. But in our household, having a student binder, I felt like was giving them responsibility over their homeschool. Now, I didn't do that with my daughter in second grade. I waited until she was a little bit older, but when my girls started in middle school, that's how we did it. And then BookShark gives them a student guide later on as they get into the last years of middle school and then into high school. So totally depends on you and your student, but just want to let you know that it's fun to let them decorate. I don't know if you're of the generation, I'm going to show my age here, Trapper Keepers. We used to decorate our Trapper Keepers. So think about that. Think of ways to get creative and let them still have those fun experiences about school, even though you're homeschooling. That is one way you can do it. You can let them decorate their student binder. Okay, let's see. I think we're to the homework part. Put together your binder. That is your homework. And I would love to see a picture of either your completed binder. You don't have to be in the photo if you don't like to be in the photo. You can add some flair by maybe putting your binder in the picture with a book that you're excited to read. If you do want to show your face to our community, I would love that. I kind of get sick of seeing my own face and hearing my own voice. So I promise I will bring in other voices as the weeks continue on. But your homework is to put together that binder and post a picture for us. Look at and read through sections 1, 3, and 4 if you can muster through it, depending on your personality, and then add a sticky note on week 4 in your instructor's guide in section 2, week 4, to go back and look at section 4 once you get a couple weeks under your belt and you are a little bit more familiar with what you're doing in BookShark, okay? We'll have a Q&A on Monday that will go over the binder. So any questions you guys might have, I'm going to get those answered for you. And to prep for next week, you are going to have, I would encourage you, get some colored markers, Sharpies if you can, and some blank address labels. You're going to find out next week why we are going to need those, but we are going to be very creative in how we organize your homeschool area with your books here with BookShark. It's incredibly helpful, especially if you have more than one child or you're doing more than one level. Even if you're family style learning with history and science, your language arts might be different. So labeling those books, your future self is going to thank you. All right, last thing, you guys, we are in July and it is coming up on Shark Week. If you didn't know, BookShark has a Shark 2-week unit study for free on our website. Go to bookshark.com/freebies. You will find our Shark unit study. You will also find a plethora of other unit studies. So if you're looking for something to kind of get your kids excited about the coming year, if you're always looking to include some education in the summer, these are a great way to do it. I encourage you, check those out. Whew. Okay, it's Wednesday. We've just finished session 2. I will be posting your homework, the Q&A. We'll have another live video, and I'll also be posting some fun interactive posts about you, because I don't want you to get lost in this year and just think about your student all year long. And maybe we should talk about the fact of how many times I changed my hair. That video was one example. A little information about myself. I was a hairstylist for over 20 years, so I'm constantly changing my hair. I'm going to put a post to find out what you guys are or have been in your past lives before becoming homeschool parents. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.